Hello, hello, hello. Well, hello, hello, hello. Looks like we're about to load up. I am going to be playing Kerbal Space Program. I am Christopher Tarantola. Many people that may be watching this know me as Mr. Tarantola. And this is going to be a PG thing. I want to keep it PG because I would like kids to be able to watch it. I have a lot of kids in my life that I want to be able to have them watch this and participate. So if you would please keep things nice and PG for them. Um, any failure to do so will probably make it to where you won't be able to participate anymore. So we're going to start a new game of Kerbal Space Program. I'm going to go ahead and just go to Start New. And I'm going to call this, I don't know, um, YouTube Live KSP. So what's going to happen is every Sunday about this time, I'm going to live stream me playing this game, and hopefully we'll have some fun with it. So I think I'm going to stick with career, but I'm going to go nice and custom. I'm wanting to do this nice and easy. I don't want to go too hard. I'm going to start myself off with extra funds. Going to give myself extra rewards. Make it less grindy, especially the science. Get those penalties going away. Let's see, allow reverting rights, yes. Quick loading, yes. Mr. Includes respawn. No, I actually like that to be turned off. More fun to me that way. No entry for, yeah. Include so no. Allow other launch sites, yes. Enable comm network, yes. Resource abundance, we'll crank that up. And that looks good there. So we'll go to advanced now. We want Kerbals to level up immediately. We can allow negative. We'll have part and Kerbal G-force and pressure limits. We won't keep crossfeed rules because with all the mods I have, that doesn't always work out well. I won't. I'll always allow action groups of mine as well. I think that doesn't add anything for me personally for this kind of playthrough. This is going to be a really nice, easy peasy playthrough. Okay. Require signal for control. Yes. I won't do plasma blackout, but I am gonna like just completely destroy the game by increasing the modifier to basically it'll go anywhere. And the reason for that is I'll self-impose, but I found that it was just too grindy with some of the mods that I have. And by too grindy, it's like it was impossible to go to any place past Minmus. Um, so I think all the rest of this is more or less fun. There's one other, yeah, use stock skin. All right, and we'll accept that, and we'll start. And so here we go. So this is not my first time playing Kerbal Space Program on YouTube, but it's my first time in a while. You know, I am. Let's see here. Thanks, I forgot it. It's been a while since I played this game, but I have done one playthrough um, since all the craziness with the world started in March. But let's go ahead and get started. So the first things first, I'm going to go here, go to available. Let's go with launch our first vessel and gather scientific data from Kerbin. Those ought to be two relatively easy contracts to obtain. So we're going to go into our VAB, or Vehicle Assembly Building. And thank you, I got it. And we're going to start with the Mark 1 command pod. I'm going to right click so I can get extra details on it. I can go over here and scroll down after I've right clicked. You can see it has a little bit of torque here, 5, which is plenty for the size of this vessel. It's got a little bit of monopropellant, so we're going to want to take that out. And what we're going to do is, after we clicked on it, it came up. We're going to right click again. And this monopropellant, I'm just going to get rid of it because right now I don't need it. That'll be useful later in the game. Right now I don't have too many options available to me, so we'll use this flea booster. I do have a mod called Kerbal Engineer Redo, and that provides a lot of good information. You do get some of that information here. The problem with this down here is it's necessarily atmospheric, where here I can also get the information if it wasn't in the atmosphere, which does make a difference to how your engines perform. Some engines are perform better in vacuum, in other words in space outside of an atmosphere. Some engines perform better in an atmosphere. So there's all that. So I don't really have too many other parts right now. As you can see, I do have these fins. I'm going to go ahead and put those on because those actually, believe it or not, will help. I'm going to press Control X to increase. I could also go down here and do it manually, but to increase the number of objects I'm placing in radial symmetry at once. So I increase that to 4, and then I'll place that there. So now they're 4 equally spaced there. This is going to be maybe basic tutorial, but I'm not going to go too in-depth on it. I'm just going to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it for those that might not know. If you want more in-depth tutorials, I recommend looking up Scott Manley or maybe some of my earlier videos from a couple years ago. So now I'm going to go Shift X to reduce the symmetry because I only need 1. I'm going to click it there. Believe me, it did stick. It's in there. It's just kind of the way it's modeled, you can't see it, which is fine. I don't need to see that part. I just need it to be there. I'm also going to put this mystery goo. This is in my science, so this is going to provide data for my vessel, telemetry for my vessel, so that I can know what's going on. And then what this is going to do is it's going to just be an experiment that my little Kerbal can perform on their mission. So I'm going to increase the symmetry to 2 and put 2 of those mystery goo containers there. Okay, and then we of course definitely want the Mark 06 NK06 parachute, Mark 1, or it's not Mark 1. Okay, anyway, you want that parachute. That's an important piece of this puzzle, otherwise you're gonna crash and your Kerbal will die. And you might think that's fun and crazy and funny, but I tend to think that's bad. Okay, so Jebediah was the default first guy. He's a pilot, but I like Valentina. She's my favorite. Now I can also change her clothes here. There's some other things you can do too, but I'm not going to worry about that. But yeah, we'll just leave her in her flight suit there. That'll be just fine. And you can also go to action groups here, but there's nothing really for me to do here, so I'm not going to worry about that. One thing you do want to do is you want to go down to this bottom right hand corner and check your staging, as Scott Linley would say, check yo staging. So I want stage 1 is to activate the solid rocket booster here, and then stage 2 will be to activate the parachute. I don't want them to both activate at the same time, so I want to stage that at a lower number, a later stage. Another thing I want to do is, if you notice here, I have some things to look at here. So it's going to burn right now at 8.8 seconds in duration. It's delta V. It's delta is change, V means velocity, so its ability to change its speed and direction. Velocity is speed and direction. Its ability to change its speed and direction is 730 meters per second. So it can go change its direction by 730 meters per second. And you have your thrust to weight ratio. That's its current and max. So as fuel gets expended, the weight of this vessel goes down, and so the thrust to weight goes up. And it's at 6.52, which means 6.5 times its weight in thrust. And it'll max out at 11 times, which will actually create quite high G's. So we'll want to address that in just a second. You have your torque, which means if this was off center, how much it's going to tilt the make the vehicle want to tend to turn without putting any input. So you want to generally have your torque at 0. That's the amount of thrust in kilonewtons. The ISP is how efficient the vehicle is. Think of that kind of like your miles per gallon. So the higher that number, the more efficient it is. A 140 is relatively low, and for this first mission, that's going to be just fine. Then you have your mass in kilograms. That's your dry mass and your wet mass. So that's how much it weighs with the fuel. That's how much it weighs after all the fuel is expended. Your cost and the number of parts. Okay, gravy. So one of the things we want to do is we want to reduce this thrust to weight ratio. That'll also increase the burn time to make it a smoother ride for Valentina. Otherwise, she might black out from having too high of a G. So we're going to literally, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hover over it, and I'm going to right click, and that's going to pull up this menu. I can pin that, move it around. If I want, I can move these up and down. If I want to be very precise and I just want to type it in, I can click that little number button, and then I can type in what I want there. But there, we'll just use the slider here. And notice as I move this slider over here, my thrust to weight ratio as well as my burn time also gets adjusted, as well as the thrust, obviously, because I'm literally what I'm doing is lowering the amount of thrust that comes out the back of the nozzle. The lower the thrust to weight ratio, but also the slower it burns through the fuel. And so I want to reduce that. Typically we want, when we first launch, about a 1.2 to 1.4 thrust to weight ratio. That's just what I've found through experience. So on this planet, in this game, that is typically ideal. So that's going to get us thrust to weight. Now instead of 8.8 seconds of burn, it'll burn for 40.2 seconds, which is quite a bit longer, and that'll actually get us going a lot faster because we're not going to be fighting aerodynamic forces quite as difficultly. Okay, I think I've explained everything and we're ready to go. That'll probably be the most explanation I will have to give. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, there you go. Alright, so Valentina is getting prepared. She's getting into her Tesla, driving out to the pad. Just pretend there's a Tesla. The pad right now is just a big pile of dirt and a couple of little outcroppings, a little temporary flag pole there. I wonder what that little object is. We'll have to check that out maybe later. Okay, so gonna click over here. That's just gonna show me my resources, and then to start off with, I can have Valentina go ahead. I'm going to right-click on the crew hatch here, and then I'm going to have her run a crew report. That's a science experiment. Essentially, she takes what she observes and is feeling and writes it down on a notepad. And then she can literally radio that in, transmit that science. So I'll go ahead and do that. But there's no usable comms in range because I forgot to put an antenna on here. Mainly because we don't have access to one yet. So she'll just have to hold on to that. I'll also go ahead and observe one of the mystery grooves right here. And I'll keep that. Okay. Now I'm going to press the T key. And that's going to turn on my SAS, which is I forget what it's called. Oh my goodness. SAS is basically, it'll hold to the position that you're looking at, and you can also, as you get more experience and higher sophistication in your probes, you can have it point to different areas, and I'll show you more about that later. Then you have your RCS, which is the reaction control system. We don't need to do that right now. That's more something for mainly for docking and just generally in space. And I'm going to press Z. So Z maxes my throttle. If I press X, it'll zero my throttle. If I press Shift, it'll slowly rise up my throttle. If I'm tapping it, and then if I press Control, it'll lower it back down. Okay, but I'm just going to press Z to have max throttle. Honestly, for this, it doesn't matter. That's just kind of a habit I have. Then your space bar is going to advance. It went from over here to over here, but it's going to advance your staging. So let's go ahead and light this candle. And there she goes. I'm going to go ahead. I'm using the WASD keys, and specifically I'm hitting D to rotate it to where it's moving sideways as well as up instead of just going directly up, because what goes up typically usually must come down, at least unless you get it going fast enough. And so she's going on a nice little ride here. We're about 100 and we're working on 200 meters per second here. The speed of sound and max Q typically happens around 400 meters per second. Max Q, for those that don't know, is basically maximum dynamic pressure. The atmosphere is still thick enough, and we've run out of fuel now, that it's putting a lot of force, aerodynamic force on the vessel, but and the vessel is going fast enough that it's pushing hard back. Past max Q, the atmosphere starts getting thinner and thinner, and so even though the rocket continues to move faster, the pressure on the vessel goes down, mainly because there's just less air to push against the vessel. And that's a good indication that you're getting to space, or at least getting closer to it. Okay, so now she has gone past what we call the apoapse, or the highest point in her orbit, or in this case it's suborbit. In fact, it's just a ballistic trajectory, and she's now gaining speed. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my staging key, the space bar, and that's going to release the parachutes. It's just going to slow things down. Right now it's in drogue mode. At some point, and when this hits 1000, it is going to open up and slow her down. I'm going to go ahead and see about she's pointed pretty directly down because of the way I have the fins and the aerodynamics of this whole thing. But there it goes. It opened up. She twisted back around, probably enjoyed that. I can go ahead and observe the mystery goo one more time. And so now we have an observation while flying at Kerbin. The goo jiggles and wobbles as the craft flies. Fantastic. We recover that. We'll get 28 science. I will take that. And we can go ahead and there's the period and the comma keys right below your L. And so I'm going to hit the period key, and that's actually going to fast forward time. Now while we are inside an atmosphere, it's what's called physics warp, so it's going to only go to a max of 4. Now we happened to hit with enough force that it actually destroyed my fins. Not a big deal. The rest of the vehicle did survive, including the most important part, Miss Valentina Kerman. We're going to go ahead and recover that vessel and call it a day. One successful mission in the books. Okay. Excuse me. Alright, so now we've made it back to our We've recovered the vessel. We've decontaminated things that need to be decontaminated and studied and prodded and poked. Valentina, she's gotten a little bit of experience. We got some reputation. We got some more money in our coffers. Let's go ahead and spend some of that money. So I'm going to go ahead and right click. I'm going to upgrade some of these places. So I have the money to do so. Again, because I kind of cheated by making it easier at the beginning. So I have no shame about that. I just wanted to make it fun. So that's starting to get a little bit... Oh, I didn't want to click on it that way. My bad. Because I want to go to... before I do this, let's leave here. I want to get a couple more contracts so that we can earn more money for accomplishing things. I also want to go and spend some of my science, that we have here. So, escape the atmosphere, orbit Kerbal. We can haul and test things. I tend to not do these focused observational surveys nor the testing. I just find it not. I just don't find it fun. It's very grindy. It's very difficult, and not why I play Kerbal Space Program. So we're not going to do that. We will go ahead and do the escape from atmosphere and escape our orbit Kerbal. Those are things that I plan on doing anyhow, so I might as well get credit for doing them. We're also going to go ahead and go into our science, and we'll get that for 5. We'll get this for 5, and then we'll start spending some of this. I think 20. That's 33, 40, 53. Okay, so we got enough to cover all of this, so we'll go ahead and get all of this. Okay, and so now we have 50 left, so that's going to leave me with a choice. I have to make a choice on what I'm going to get next. Do I get basic science, where I get a battery, which is actually quite important. We also get some good antennas here, radiators. Get the Probodobodine Stay Putnik. You get the Science Junior, the storage container. These are all really great. This radio science container, that's a mod. A lot of these things are modded objects, by the way. Yeah, so that is really appealing. Enhanced survivability, that's not appealing at all. Better flight control, that is actually probably what I'm going to spend my money on. I could have done this, and I could have done that, but I didn't, so phooey on me, we have it done. Now, I don't know that we're going to be able to go ahead and go straight to escaping the atmosphere, but we can do another mission to just get more science so that we can buy more technologies, so that we can have those technologies available to us so that we can indeed get to orbit. So now we have access to fuel tanks, and we have some limited liquid fuel, as well as some much bigger solid rocket boosters here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just remove that. I'm going to keep this top part. It is doing exactly what I want it to do. Let's see here. Coupling, payload. So I could do a payload here. It's typically what I want to do. Open that up. I love this little payload guy. Again, that's most of these things are going to be mods. I'll worry about that later. Let's go to thermal. Yeah, so we have heat shields. Heat shields are kind of important. So this is going to be our basic unit here. Now, I wonder if we, under utility here, have the radial parachutes. That is going to be something of desire. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to move this here. And so that way, when we fall, we're not going to break anything, because we're going to have more parachutes to hold us up. So it's going to slow the vessel down by more, and so it'll be going slower when it hits either the land or the sea. And we'll go ahead and move these into the thing. And I don't mind. I try and do cosplay, but I don't mind like this overlap here, because this is where the experiment is, and I can in my head say, well, we engineered it to where this, whatever was in here and in here, that's a duplicate, so it's really just keep doing a duplicate purpose for both. And it is slightly bigger than any one, but that's how I justify it in my head, at least. Let's go to electrical. We didn't get that yet, but we do have antenna now. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to get this antenna. I'm going to go and, oops. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to rotate using the WASD keys here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it halfway in, halfway out. Because to me, that looks more realistic than any other way of sticking that thing on there. I don't know why they have it double like that. Maybe it's a real life example, but this to me looks more real. So that's what I do. I did it for aesthetics. Okay. Go to science. We can add a barometer. Fantastic. 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 Go ahead. I think that's still on there actually, so I don't need that. Yeah, so we got all the science available to us now. Alright, so now we can go back to coupling. We can use this decoupler here. And so that will be our final stage. I can go ahead and close that up to protect all of those valuable science experiments. And now we can go with our fuel tanks here. So I'll just go with a nice big one here. I'm still going to make sure there's no monopropellant there. Then for engines, we only have 2 liquid fuel engines. I have the swivel and I have the Reliant. Okay, so I'm going to right click to get more information. And you're going to notice this engine ISP, and you got the ASL and the vacuum. So that's in the atmosphere, and then that's up in space. You notice that the ISP goes up as you get into space. It's more efficient in space because you're not pushing against the atmosphere. And it just works better. Now the Reliant versus the swivel, if you notice, the Reliant has better atmosphere, but the swivel has better vacuum. So this is generally going to be your second stage or your later stages, and this is going to be your first stages. So I'm going to go ahead and use that for this aspect of it. So we can see outside of the atmosphere, I'm going to have a 5 thrust to weight ratio, but I only have a little bit of delta V. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase that by hovering over the part. I'm going to press Alt, and I'm going to literally just copy it. And now I have less thrust to weight, but much more delta V. See how that worked? Okay. At some point, adding more fuel does not buy you more delta V because of weight, but my thrust to weight ratio is still really nice and high there. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to actually undo that last part because it's going to make my lower stages so have to push so hard that it just won't be able to do it. I'm also going to right click on every part and go to rigid attachment, put that to on, because once you start getting larger rockets, that's going to matter. Okay. Now rigid on. Let's also open her up and do it for this as well. Now I placed that symmetry so all 4 of them already did it with just the one being turned to on there, which is nice and convenient. And I'm going to rigid attach everything. Okay, I can also, with the parachutes, I can change when they deploy if, for whatever reasons I want. And there are plenty of different reasons why you want to do different things. So, okay, got all that going. So now that is a second stage. Let's do a first stage. So we're going to go back to decoupling, get another decoupler, and that automatically puts a shroud around your engine. And so that shroud will stick to the decoupler that you just added when you stage, and that'll go away and your engine will be exposed and you'll be on your way. Okay, and then I'm just going to go to engines here, and I wonder if we just do a straight solid rocket booster. So these tend to have a higher thrust to weight ratio but a lower ISP. Yeah, and so in the atmosphere it's still at 1.93, so I can even lower the thrust on this a little bit, maybe even a lot of it, and I can get more out of it. So it's going to go for a minute. It's going to have over 1,000 meters per second of delta V just from this solid rocket booster. I don't know that that's going to be enough to get in orbit, but I do think that that will get me out of the atmosphere if I play my cards right. Now the other thing that is going to play into it is control. So one of the things we want to do to get control is go to the aerodynamics here, and we're going to do these advanced winglets here. So I'm going to go here, control XXX, and now we have four-way symmetry. They're nice and on the axes so that when you press S, these will go. When you press A, those will go, and it won't. If you do it on the side, it just doesn't quite work as well, I find. So we also want to make sure that these are rigidly attached. So we're going to right click and do that. You can also control whether or not they activate for pitching, gnawing, and rolling. So pitch is when you have your airplane or your space vessel. Pitch is which way it's going this way, yaw is which way it's going that way, and roll is which way it's going that way. So those are your three controls for any air or spacecraft. And so if you don't want it to, if it's messing up because you don't want it to roll or affect the roll, then you can turn roll off and it won't do it when you're putting the Q and the E keys to roll the vessel, that sort of thing. Okay, so I think we're good here. Now we want to check our staging, so that's going to go off on the first stage. After that, then this decoupler is going to activate. After that, this next engine should go. Now I can do is I can activate the engine and the decoupler at the same time, and that'll save me a spacebar hit. And then after that, this last decoupler will go, and then that'll reveal my heat shield. And then after that, after we've entered the atmosphere, hopefully at least, we can activate our three parachutes, the two on the side here and the one on the top. Okay, I think that is everything. I'm going to go double check over here. Ooh, what was that? Utility? Yeah, okay. Comms done. Yeah, I guess I could add landing legs, but I'm not gonna. Alright, we're good to go. So let's go ahead. And I'm gonna even name this. I'm gonna name this YouTube Mark 1. Okay. Save that, launch it, and let's keep moving. Let's see, what time is it? Alright, we'll probably do this for maybe another half hour and then we'll be done. Okay, we kind of bounced around there. That's just part of how the game sometimes works, the kinks of the game. So, going to press T, turn on our SAS, Z to max our throttle. That will matter for the second stage. And then we're going to go ahead and turn our resources on. And Valentina, are you ready? She looks ready. Okay, let's go. Just get to start off nice and slow and easy, and that's what we want. I'm actually going to wait to turn now until we are, we're starting to go a little bit north, so I'm going to correct that. And it's not correcting for me. I don't have enough authority, even with these winglets, to control which way it's going to go, which is not going to bode well for me. I'm going to go ahead and actually bail out on that thing because it wasn't helping me. We'll go up as high as we can. We're going to call this a failed launch, which means we just learned something. I'm going to actually lower the throttle on this because I'm going too quick. I'm going to go ahead. Aerodynamics were not my friend on that either. But I want to go sideways here. Yeah, there we go. So now we're going sideways. Oy vey. Talk about fun times. Alright. Now actually I have this mod installed where I can go over here. And I've run out of fuel there, so I'm going to go ahead and decouple from that stage. And that stage is just going to fly off and crash on its own. My apoapsis is only 18. That's not enough to get to space, so I didn't even escape the atmosphere on this one. Mainly because I didn't get to really utilize that first stage because I just didn't have control authority. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and work on that. I have a feeling I already know how to fix that. But while we're at it, we can do a crew report while in the air. We'll keep that experiment. We can do a temperature scan. We'll keep that. We'll do an atmosphere and a mystery goo. Now you notice the Kerbal alarm clock. I've been ignoring it because I'm used to it being there, but I can turn that off. And that'll be more useful later in the game. So now I have complete control authority. I can turn this vessel any way I want it. But when I was over here trying to go up, I couldn't because it was too heavy compared to how much control authority this had. In other words, this only has so much power so much torque to make this point in the direction you want it to point, and it didn't have enough to point that big heavy rock going that fast. It just didn't happen. Now we're falling and we're increasing. Oh no, we're still decreasing speed, so I'm going to wait to deploy my parachutes until that speed starts increasing, or this gets below 5,000, whichever comes first. And we're going to hit 5,000 first, so I'm going to go ahead and hit it. And it's going to come down nice and easy. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. No need to belabor it. You can see the shadow there. When that shadow meets the bottom of this vessel, then you know it's about to hit the water. Sometimes it can be a little bit unclear how close to the water you are. So you always want to look for your shadow, and that helps. So while this is happening, I'll go ahead and do some housekeeping, and we achieved all of these awesome goals. Good for us. Pat on the back and celebratory sayings and whatnots and suches and so forths. Alright, come on baby, get on down. Oh look, there's Minimus behind the planet. That's another mod, distant object mod. When you mouse over an object, then it says its name, so you know what you're looking at. Okay, so we're almost here. I'm gonna go ahead and kill my time warp. Okay, and we have another mystery goo observation that we can make, so I'm going to go ahead, and make it. And we'll recover the vessel. We'll get all of that great data, and go back to the old drawing board and do another college try. All right, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Let's go ahead and go back to our VAB. So to get more control authority, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off, or go over to command and control. I'm going to put this inline reaction wheel, and that, as you can see here, gives us an extra 5 torque, which is literally double what is already present. Now, the way reaction wheels work in this game is not quite realistic to real life, but I'm playing the game, not real life, so I'm going to use it to my advantage. So we're going to save that and launch it yet one more time, and hopefully this time we will get a better result. You notice I still have this on, so I can go ahead and get it oh, I didn't want that mystery goo. So the mystery goo, I'm just going to reset that experiment. But I'm going to keep the temperature scan. And I can also do the atmospheric pressure and keep that, and that'll be more science. Okay, T, Z, go. I'm going to try and keep on the altitude control. I have more authority, I can already tell you, but it's still not as much as I would like. It's still moving all around. Valentina's having to really fight this puppy to keep it going the direction she wants it to point. We're not quite ready for that gravity turn, but we're doing it anyway. It's going to happen faster than we want. And we just don't want to... We want to... This is way too far. We don't want to be here until we're 10 times higher in the atmosphere, but we're doing the best we can with the tools we got. You notice that little bottom of the winglet is turned as much as it can. I still don't have the control authority. I am starting to get atmospheric effects. I'm moving so quickly through the lower atmosphere, the very thick lower atmosphere. I'm approaching the speed of sound, so I'm really got a lot of pressure there. Whoa. Let's see if I can't do something with this. No, 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 no. No. Slowing us down. So I slowed down a lot of my horizontal velocity. Now I'm heading up. Oy vey, this is not the way to do a launch. To be, I mean, I'm having fun. I'm doing the best I can with the tools I have, but not the best way to do the launch. Okay, so I ran out of that. I'm going to go ahead and let go of that. My apoapsis did get higher. It's now 30,000. Still not going to exit the atmosphere. So what I could do is I could go ahead and play this out, get the little bit of science, or I could escape and redo it. Let's see, how much science? See, we have 162.3 science. Let's go ahead, we'll finish it up, and we'll go buy more science, and that'll give us the tools. Really, right now, we're suffering from a lack of tools. So let's go get some more tools at our disposal so that we can achieve our objectives. Don't do that in real life. She was like, holy shit, why did he wait so long? Well, I apologize, I forgot. Trying to do this kid friendly. Alright. We'll cover the vessel. Spiffy. Okay, I did get another milestone because we broke our altitude and land distance record. Cool beans. Okay, so let's go and do some more research here. Okay, so advanced rocketry. That's going to give us some adapters. Another solid rocket is going to give us the Terrier, which is a vacuum engine, as well as a couple other tanks and stuff. So we'll take that. And then fuel systems here would give us even more. I'm trying to look to see if it would help. I'm not sure that it will. Well, that tank might help. And so would that. So, yeah, I'll get that. This is for smaller stuff. I'm not sure that I'm quite ready to get that. General construction. It's going to give us struts and stability enhancers. Aviation is going to give us this tail fin. That, I think, is maybe a big must. Otherwise, we get this advanced flight control, which would give us a larger reaction wheel here. It also gives us this larger command pod that could fit 2 people. I actually don't have enough for this anyway. So I'm going to go with this aviation here. So I want that one piece. All the rest of it I could leave, but I want that one piece. All right. So we'll take these little winglets off first thing, and then we're going to go ahead and add the tail fin. Fantastic. That tail fin, if I make it, first of all, go rigid, but if I deploy it, you can see it just has so much more ability to turn that vessel as I wish. So it's a big help. I do believe I'm going to leave it at that. And we'll try yet another iteration. And so that's one of the things that Kerbal Space Program teaches you is iterative process. So you build something that you think is going to work, you make a hypothesis. I think this configuration will get me to my objective. And you go and you test it out. Oh no. Well, that didn't work out as planned. Let's revert to the vehicle assembly building. Val would have passed away if we had done that. Okay, sure. Yeah, what's going on with that? Let's see here. Maybe if we move these up a bit. Come on, baby, don't break on me. Okay, it didn't break on me. Good. Okay, T, Z, go. And much better authority. Look at that. Going exactly where I want it now. So now that we've got some speed, we can start doing our gravity turn, and it's not going to turn quite as fast. You notice how we're still going more vertical than not, and we're going to just slowly follow this prograde. We don't want to go too quick. We might not actually follow the prograde. We want the prograde to be as close. This yellow symbol here is our prograde. That's the direction that our vehicle is actually traveling. To be as close to the direction that we're going, as far as having it be, what's the word? Efficient. But at some point, you just have to steer it the way you need it to go. Alright, so now we're really making hay here. So my thrust to weight ratio here is really high. I'm going to lower that down to maybe like 2. Just don't need all that thrust, and then my fuel will last longer, and we just may get out of the atmosphere. I'm going to keep it at the 45-degree angle here, because I'm not necessarily trying to get to orbit. I don't think I have enough delta V to get to orbit anyway. I got about 23 seconds left to burn on this stage. You can start seeing that I'm getting the upper atmospheric effects because I am moving fast enough to do so. I want to try and be as prograde as I can. Alright, and we've definitely escaped the atmosphere. So, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go ahead and add a maneuver to see how far we can make it. We're not going to be able to get too far. We're definitely not going to orbit, but we can at least pretend. So I'm hitting M to go back and forth to the map. I'm just going to lower this down until I basically have just enough to do whatever it is that it's showing me to do. Okay. So now I'm going to want to be pointing at my target maneuver here. And my burn I want to start at 1 minute 19 seconds from now. My burn time is 1 second. And so this is going to be half a second before I actually get to this point in my orbit, which happens to be my apoapse as well. My apoapse being the highest point in my orbit. They call it different things depending on what body you are around in real life. So you might hear helioapse or geoapse or things like that. But in the game, it's all generically called apoapse, which is the generic term for it. Alright, so I'm about 30 seconds away from my burn. Go ahead and actually point in the direction of my burn. I'm high enough that I am in space, so I've gotten that. I can EVA and do an EVA report. That's going to be worth some good science. I'm going to go ahead and board back. I'm going to also take, go ahead and take, can't. I can do a mystery goo observation. Okay, I'll keep that. And I wonder if I can review report. Go ahead and transmit that science, even though it's using my electrical charge. I won't use all of it, and now I can do another crew report from space, which is worth even more science. Okay. Oh, and I've missed my burn, but I'll go ahead and I will burn out what I have. I'll kill my maneuver. I'm going to lose that stage, and then I do actually want to be pointed retrograde. So this is opposite the direction I'm traveling. So it's pointing the bottom of my craft, the tail end of the craft, directly into the direction that I'm traveling, and pointing the front of my craft directly away from the direction I'm traveling. So there's Minimus again. Now you can actually see it. Again, that's not normal game. Normal game, you wouldn't even see that dock, but that's the Distant Object Enhancement mod, which I like terribly. You can also see Moho here, Duna, there's Eve. You can see that, they're also the color Eve's purple, Duna's yellow, cool stuff like that. You can also see galaxies here, and that's yet even another mod where I'll have the ability to do space telescopes. And then there's the moon. I have re-entered the atmosphere, so I'm going to make sure I'm pointed in a good direction, retrograde. We are probably going to start to use the ablation ability of this heat shield this time around. Go ahead and speed up the warp just so that we can move things along here. I'm going to stop it once I see the heat effects, and I'm going to make sure I'm pointing directly retrograde, so that way the heat effects go around my craft and not affecting the sides and heating things up in a way that will destroy them. I'm coming in pretty hot. I just need to get slow enough that I can put these on. And I am slowing down. I'm in the lower atmosphere now. I'm still slowing down at a pretty precipitous rate. My G-force is pretty high. Val can take it though. She's a tough gal. And now it's safe to deploy my parachutes. In fact, I'm going to still wait until 5,000, or this starts increasing, whichever occurs first. I think it's going to be 5,000. And there's 5,000. Alright. Gravy train. So we broke some altitude and speed records. We reached space. We also achieved that as a goal and as a contract parameter. So we got a lot of nice good stuff. So we got lots of money, lots of science, lots of reputation from that one flight. Okay, let's go ahead and speed that up. Okay, now we're going 4 meters per second. That ought to make everything be nice and gravy, as we've already tested that. Oh, can't quite see Val there, but what we can do is we can turn this on. And now we can see her. There she is, doing her thing. She looks pretty happy. Turn her. We have enough control authority now that we can actually do that. And take a peek of the horizon, Val. What do you think? Oh, sorry, Val. Here. Oh, I ran out of electric charge, that's why. But we made it. We made it to not to orbit, but to space. Now, if we can just get a little bit more oomph behind us, we could actually make it to orbit. Where's that shadow? There's the shadow. Gravy. Okay, guys, so that's coming up on an hour, so I'm going to call it a day at that one. Guys, if you were watching this after the live stream, thank you so much. I'm going to be doing these every Sunday around 9 p.m. Central Time, maybe 8:30 to 9, just as my schedule allows. So I will see you here in 1 week. Thanks. Bye. Oh, and remember, whatever you do in all of your actions, online or in person, spread